Good morning, young man.
Good morning. It's March Madness. It's March 1st, 2022.
Oh, that's right.
Welcome aboard, everybody.
My plate just expired.
This is the Crushing Iron Podcast. We're episode 561. This is also your friendly reminder to go renew your tags and sit in the beautiful line that is the emissions testing center at your local DMV and get your emissions tested and go in there, have them stick something down the tailpipe and ask you for some cash and then wonder what they're doing, and then off you go.
Yeah, they got rid of that everywhere except like on our city.
No, I think they got rid of it in the city too.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
We don't have to do it?
I don't think so. Well, I don't know. For your BMW, they might still be required. It might be. There's no telling what you're emitting. But we're emitting today's podcast again. This is March 1st, 2022. Welcome aboard. Is that loud enough? Yeah, we are episode 561. It is a gorgeous, sunshiny day here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Hope you're all having a great start to the week. We're doing a little pre-record on Tuesday. We'll release this on Thursday. I'm heading down to the Woodlands, Texas for our first ever Texas camp. We've got about 30 athletes coming in town to do a little training on and off the course and get a lot of swim work in, cycling and running. Looking forward to seeing everybody down there. It's your first time tuning in. Welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. You know, you have a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general, so we appreciate you tuning in today. We cover it all. We'll do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We'll do race recaps. We'll also do race previews. For the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through, what our athletes are going through. We work with a wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner level athletes to elite level amateurs and everyone in between. We'll use the conversations with them and the training that they're doing to drive the topic of the day. Sometimes we even go into our Facebook group, which is Crushing Iron Group. If you want to be a part of that awesome conversation, just answer one simple question and we'll let you right in. And that's what we'll do today. We usually do Q&As in there, but today I said, hey, you know what? Well, no, there's a lot of topics on a lot of people's minds, and usually when one person has a topic, it's not just for them. It ends up being for a lot of other people. Kind of like the Seinfeld thing. It's just kind of a show about nothing, which is what we do sometimes, but it seems to resonate, and that's what matters to us. So if you're going to be part of that awesome community, hop in there. Feel free to answer questions, especially as race season is upon us. A lot of awesome people in there that are very experienced, willing to be helpful, and hopefully avoid some of the pitfalls that they have over the course of their triathlon hobbyist career. But that's it. We don't do sponsors. We don't do ads. The only agenda that we have is to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
How are you? Are you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey?
Yeah, I think I just put one foot in front of the other yesterday, and I feel pretty spry.
Yeah,
yeah,
you really did. You got a solid bike in.
Yeah, I got a little.
I saw you laying out all the new bike gear.
Yeah,
not new, but like all the bike gear that's probably been sitting in your dresser.
Yeah, I had to do a little run through to make sure I could remember how to use things. We got camp this week with some long rides, and I got the run, and now I think I'm not doing any swimming because I'll just be on deck or on the sand. Barking orders, but yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I think the weather this week combined with, a lot of other things that are going smoothly, and then heading down to the camp and being around other people, kind of energized. I just feel like I'm kind of coming out of hibernation. I feel like I'm ready to roll. And, at some point you just got to say enough is enough. Make the time if you want to make the time. If not, you got nobody else to blame but yourself.
Isn't that always it?
It's always it. We're always to blame.
Back to that. Yeah. I mean, you can, search all you want and look for, other outside motivation, but it really always comes from within inside. And for me, a lot of times that comes back to really focusing on doing something I want to do in the short term, and hoping that kind of ignites a switch, or whatever it is. I mean, if you're trying to build, just kind of, get in the game, in a way that, is pleasurable. So anyway, I just wanted to ask how you're doing.
Hey, it's all about keeping things pleasurable.
100% it is.
I noticed that you went with my Monday request, which was the white V-neck, the pants, and you didn't wear jeans, but you get the flops on.
Yeah, the lounge pants.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
I ordered these. They're too big. They suck, but I'm wearing them just because I'm not sending them back.
Yeah, that's all right. I like them on you. They look good.
Yeah, they look all right.
I dropped into our Facebook group about 20 minutes ago. And
how are things going in there?
We usually do. They're off to a good start. I think the first one honestly is where we might go today, and then I will get to maybe John Earl next week. His was a podcast. He wants to do a podcast topic called overthinking versus underthinking, which I think is a good topic in terms of like, things you have to prioritize, and you have to be specific, you have to be disciplined, but at some point you don't want to get, lost in the weeds. But the top one, I think, honestly, like as you and I were discussing yesterday off air about, the rest of this year and what things we might be, looking to do and how we might try to, manipulate our own training. And you and I are pretty creative with our own stuff anyway. We follow the general principles and stuff that we do for the team, and that's best for training. But, at some point, some things got to give. And, in terms of time and priorities and sometimes that just goes back to having fun, but it also kind of goes back to your why, and how it's changed for you and I since we started this podcast. That was the first one we got out of the gate, honestly. And it fit, I think, is Jen Hale said, the morphing or evolution of your why with time and change during different seasons of life, making triathlon work for you and not the other way around.
I like it.
And when you and I started this, not just this podcast, but I think if you go, for me, it's changed tremendously. It's even changed for me in just the last few years. I even kind of noted in the weekly athlete email that we put out that, is part of my, I'm definitely not calling it resurgence. That would be an over dramatization of what I just did the last 2 days, but my
resurgence.
Yeah, my
he's back.
He's back. my eagerness to be more, intentional with my time and the things that I want to accomplish is really been based around Hayden, and the age he is in, kind of go. Obviously, like when I first got into the sport, which was a very, very long time ago, that, I did it for myself, right? Everything was for me. I originally started in the sport to lose weight. Like I think I've shared it before, but I got into triathlon, met with a buddy that I went to church with. He had just done Kona, and I had no idea what that was. And we sat down at a Logan's Roadhouse, and I weighed about 230 pounds. That was like the very beginning of my hardcore. I was thick. That was the very, very beginning of my hardcore drinking. It led up to the 230, obviously.
Yeah, because you didn't drink when you were young, right?
I did for a very
high school,
for a very exceptional alcoholic, which I feel like I was. I was very dedicated. I didn't take my first sip of alcohol until I was 21. I had a typical
legal.
legal
you don't
day.
break laws. That's one thing.
That's one thing. So I checked a lot of things off the list, though, unfortunately, my 21st birthday. But wait till I was 21. Typical Church of Christ upbringing, you don't do this. We also had a huge, long lineage of addiction and stuff like that in our family. So it was very much don't touch it. Don't do anything with it, and then, of course, typical Church of Christ stuff, bury it, denial, whatever. If you are drinking it, don't tell us, don't talk about it. We don't want to see it. It'll all be fine. Just come to church on Sunday, pretend everything's good. But anyway, after I lost track, and this was after some really just bad shit that happened in my life, drinking a lot, I was literally, I was going through days where I would walk down to the Wendy's, that was a mile from the apartment I lived in, and I would order 2 double stacks with cheese, some chicken McNuggets, and then of course I would wash it down with a Diet Coke, right? Because also a large Diet Coke. I'm saving calories, and I would go through almost a bottle of Jaeger almost a day. I would do the giant bottle of Jaeger, and I would pour a Jaeger with Red Bull in a giant tumbler. But I got
after you got your base.
I got the sugar free Red Bull in.
Okay, nice.
So anyway, that's what got me up to 230 pounds. Just basically sitting there, and I watched Bad Boys twice a day. That's how bad of a shape I was in. It was honestly a very, very, very sad part of my life. I can laugh about it now because I'm past it, but that was my life. So anyway, I wanted to lose weight, so I met with this guy, Matt Adams, and so I got into the sport to lose weight. I remember, I think I've shared a story before, I walked onto the pool deck at the Concord Road YMCA with these super, I remember this it was yesterday, these super baggy cargo swim shorts. They were navy, they had a little white trim at the bottom. And I was all right, I'm going to train for an Olympic distance triathlon. I swam year round growing up. I got this. I can bike and I can teach myself. And I got in and I almost died. I barely made it to 15. I got out and quit. Of course, the cargo shorts didn't really help out my streamlined, hydrodynamics, but still, I was in bad shape, real bad shape. But I started out as like a weight loss journey. And then after I got into some pretty decent shape over the years, I lost weight, get into like 180. I was kind of past the why of like doing it for weight loss. And I moved into like, hey, I'm actually not bad at this. Like I was competitive. I was starting to place in my age group. I was like, this is actually, I'm feeling pretty good. My drinking was still going on, obviously. And then it went from a weight loss why to I'm kind of competitive and I can be good at this why. Like, and that was honestly like the healthiest place I could have been back then, like the unhealthiest version of what I was still back then. And then as you got to see like the last like 2 years of my still being very highly competitive, but my why was kind of gone. And as far as a positive why, my why turned into, I'm just trying to bury the other pain and shame and guilt I have going on in my life. And I would get up every day and I would still train. I'd still have to open water swim. I was barely functioning as a human, but I still found time to go hit the trace for long rides. I was still competing at a fairly high level, but I had nothing, right? So that was not much of a why. And then, after I got sober, my why changed. Like, and you and I did Ironman Louisville. My why was different then. I was just happy and grateful to be back. Like that's a memory I'll have forever. You and I sitting on the steps at Ironman Louisville, waiting for everybody to go down the stream. There's like my favorite, as I was kind of going back and watching some of the Ironman Louisville 100 days like videos, the intro with me and you doing the little high five right before we jumped in the water. Yeah. Like that's one of my favorite memories in triathlon period, because it was not just sitting on the steps waiting for everybody to kind of file in. This is the last year. That was last year, right? They did it in the summer. It was, so, yeah. The last year they did it in the summer, and it was like 100. It was like 105. It was insane that day. My why then was I was just thankful. I was grateful to be where I was and made it through where I was. And that was a very special race to me. And then after that, I kind of got back to being competitive, and then I've kind of regressed a little bit in terms of the competitive, and C26 has kind of taken, shape of its own, and training kind of taken a back order. And now that Hayden's gotten in to an age where he kind of knows what I'm doing and he kind of asks questions about it, and he kind of has like an eagerness. Like the other day, he's like, hey, he asked me, he's like, are you ever going to race again? And I was like, dude, I've had things going on. Like I'm a washed up, because the conversation started because he was asking about Brady. Is he ever going to come out of retirement? Right, I'm like, we stop it with the Brady stuff. Like, just fine. He's retired. Move on from someone else. And he was like, is Brady he's never going to play again? I was like, he's never going to play again for now. And he's like, well, are you ever going to race again? And I was like, man, like you are like, if I do, I'm going to get like a tri kit with like Brady's number on the back with like a Brady, jersey tri kit and rock it. But so I know what it's like for my why to change. And my why now is kind of like, hey, I'd love to get back in and do a race where Hayden is there, right? And just as much for me, but also to kind of like, now that he's at an age where he can kind of really understand what's going on and like what it actually entails, not when he's like getting, walked around like the carrier and like doesn't know what's going on, or he's got his little, the Michael Phelps Olympics back in, what was it, 2012, maybe 2016. What was the year you and I did Wisconsin? 2016.
16.
Yeah. So Michael Phelps' little kid, his baby had on like the whole Olympics. His baby made those like soundproof headphones, super popular. And so Hayden was wearing those at, I think he was like 8 weeks old when you and I did Ironman Wisconsin. Like, so that's really it. That's all the recollection the kid has of me doing it. So I know
see him now. He'll be looking at his watch. Is he coming? Where is he?
Exactly. He'll be like Brady would have swam that in 52 minutes. Like, where's my dad? Yeah, he's not gonna take any shit from me. But so yeah, I know what it's like, for my why to change, and I know, and then what it entails and what I'm kind of looking forward to now. And I know yours has changed tremendously too.
Yeah, I guess it has. I kind of started in the same boat with, I was coming into my 50s, and I guess that's a little different boat than yours, but I was doing a lot of drinking too, and I was hosting these parties in Nashville every Saturday when the Badgers were good that year with Russell Wilson, and afterwards, one of the parties, me and my buddy from Wisconsin, we were singing the alma mater song after the game, and somebody played the video back for me, and I was like, Jesus, who is that fat ass, And I was like, I knew at that point, I mean, my why immediately turned into, I'm not getting any younger. If I don't do this now, it's gonna never get easier. Mm-hmm. So I pretty much went to Jim, who was our friend at the time, and I guess maybe no, I don't know. It doesn't matter. Anyway, he got me into this Couch to 5K, and that's when that all started. And I got into running, and running was just really hard on my body. I'd never ran much other than sports, and I was about ready to give up running because I was like, man, this is ridiculous, because I went too fast, too far, too fast, all the cliches, because I was so eager not to lose my athletic background, right? And then eventually I got into doing a sprint, and that felt much better. So yeah, same kind of deal. Then it was like, all right, we signed up for Ironman like right after that. Yeah. Of course, because it wasn't like I started running too fast. And all of a sudden I wanted to do Ironman. I wanted to go the distance, and probably rushed that one a little bit, but I'm like you. I wanted to do well, and I knew I could, and then I did it, and I did well, and it hurt, and it was painful, and I had the Ironman blues, the whole 9 yards. We went next year, and that actually, we did Louisville that year, I think, too. The next year, 14, yep. And I wasn't going to do another Ironman, but then I got the bug like in May for an August race, and I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. I turned it up.
And that's the year that they announced. I remember exactly where I was. That was the first year of Ironman Chattanooga. I believe. Yeah. Because I was standing at, we had this huge group thread with the same guys, and I was working at Jay Christopher's, this restaurant, because I was fresh out of treatment, and I was waiting tables, and there was a huge group thread. I was like, Ironman Chattanooga's announced. We all in? Mm-hmm. And then that like cascaded, and you were like, all right, I'm back in again. I guess I'm back in.
Yeah, but no, this was Louisville.
Was it?
Yeah, because I did Louisville second because I couldn't get in Chattanooga.
That's right.
Because I didn't want to sign up for Chattanooga and Wisconsin before I had done one.
Yep.
So I ended up doing Louisville the next year, and it was, one of those deals. But so then I got through that, and I don't know, it was just sort of, I wanted to stick around and keep doing it for some reason. And I guess it was a lot of it was because of the friend circles, and we had a lot of good groups and everything like that. And then over time, though, it beats you up, right? So I've been going through this, like, I don't know if I want to do it, and I keep doing it. And a lot of it is because of what we're doing. Yeah. And I just want to stay engaged. And so now I'm I did last year chat, and that didn't feel good, but I'm taking a different approach this year. And I was talking to you yesterday about, I'm taking that undertrain to heart, but I'm specific tri training undertrained a little bit, but I'm also want to work my body because I have different things like, sore muscles and flexibility issues and, like normal shit that you get when you get older. But I really want to work, and that's been on my mind for several years, but you really have to focus on doing that kind of stuff and getting your, how do you say, chassis or your whole body in a spot where it feels good to do it again. And that's where I'm at. I'm not rushing. I'm contemplating Wisconsin, and I'm not thinking about it in the same way about crushing it. But I just want to feel good again,
I think two things. One, and I've touched on this before, but I always have a huge level of admiration for athletes that pick up a brand new foreign sport at the age you did. And to like, because if you think about it, like that was the first memory I had. It wasn't a race, but when I was going back to treatment, I was in treatment. There was a guy who came in who will remain nameless, and he was 61. And I remember thinking, why are you here? Like what? Like you've been doing this for 61 years. Let's say, average, you probably have 20 left. To go through what you're about to go through when you have less of your life left, and most people would just mail it in. I've been doing this for so long. What's the point, right? Like, what's the point of me? Like, because the closer you get to the end, the more pressure it is on you to like not wait another day. If you're in like your 20s, your 30s, like, you're not going to degrade, physically. You're still, you got your peak level of whatever you want basically for like up until you're like, 35 or 40. Time is nothing, right? You got plenty of time, but as time condenses and you realize you don't have a lot of it maybe anymore, there's pressure. It's like, I can't wait any longer. I can't wait to do so. So for athletes to pick up a sport that's so complex in so many ways. It's not just picking up just like, running where, you get to run. It's like cycling and swimming and nutrition and transitions and in the gear. It's like, it's just brand new. And so I always have a huge level of admiration for anybody who picks up the sport at that kind of, at that age and then keeps doing it. The other thing that I think, and kind of going back to, I think what you were saying and Jen was kind of getting to was, I think the biggest thing for everyone is when you have a why, right? And you're trying to, because I think we've talked about it plenty of times when you're training for a race or you're training the way that you used to be, right? Or decisions you made a long time ago, or you're a different person. Like we always get attached, like, you might have started this sport with, like, I mean, hell, like, yes, I started this sport single with, nothing and really no responsibilities. And I drank all the time and I could train like 20 hours a week. And I did. Mm-hmm. Now, literally totally different, like night and day.
Just a phase.
It was a long phase, unfortunately, but it's been a long phase since then, a great phase. And I think the important thing for athletes to understand is that the why you have now is the why that you chose. It didn't choose you. You chose it. You chose to make time for extracurricular activities for your kids. You chose you chose to advance your career and take on more responsibilities. You chose to, get in a relationship. You chose to do these specific things. Now, obviously some things you don't choose, right? Job loss, divorce, sometimes, moving or relocating or travel. But for the most part, the why, the underlying reason that is going to get you out of the door. That's not a PR, or it's not going to Kona, or it's not being on the podium, or it's not beating, Sally Sue down the street. It's the intrinsic things that move you, right? Emotionally, mentally. When you see people cross the finish line, 1 out of every 100 are moved to tears because of the time in the PR. The other 99 of them, it's moved because it meant something to you. You did it for a reason. You overcame this. You never thought you could do it, or you did it within the constraints of the new, life that you have. And so I think when people struggle with their why, the biggest reason they struggle with the why or the new reason that they're training or the new life that they have is that they're not willing to let the rest go. They're not willing to understand and really, buy into this is just the way it is now, and to no longer feel guilt and shame and disappointment or frustration from the hours that they no longer have, because you made that choice, right? That you made that choice to do that. And so recognize that and understand that you don't have 15 to 16 hours a week to train, or maybe not even 10 to 12. You got 7 to 9, right? And that also kind of goes with the conversation you and I had yesterday about, and I was actually thinking about this from another talk I had with another athlete on the way here this morning, was because you were talking about training for Chat 70.3 with more of an Olympic distance style, attack with some maybe longer stuff here and there.
Right.
And the truth of the matter is if you can successfully attack and complete and dedicate yourself to a plan that fits perfectly, not just to your life and the hours wise, but to get your juices flowing, right? You're more likely to do these workouts than you are to do a 2 or 3 hour easy ride. Then if you're more focused and excited to do that, and you're able to do it 100% of the way, or even 90, 95%, you're going to be in so much better shape than plugging in a plan or committing to too much. And then you end up doing 50% of a plan that doesn't fit your life. Yeah. And, I can do 20 hours and you do 10. Well, now you're not even doing 10 hours of that plan. Now you're doing 10 hours of a plan that's no longer for you, because you're not going to be able to maintain the same level of fitness that the plan is requiring. Right. And I think that's just and that could go back to your why, or it could go back to your availability, and I think it's very important to. And that was kind of something that resonated me when I did Ohio 70.3 last year. Was I super excited with my time? No. It was 6 minutes off my PR, but it was the lowest volume I'd ever trained on, period. Mm-hmm. And so while, I think everybody has that, immediate type of, man, I was so close, or in the case of the butts, right? Yeah, but, if I'd adjusted, I had it with you like the whole rest of the day that day But what I had to also think about was like, hey, I missed minimal time with Hayden. I did my long rides during the week. I stuck just to running on the weekends. I made myself available as best I could. That was a decision that I made. But what I'm judging myself against is the person before that who wouldn't have made those decisions to do different things and may have gotten a different result. So I think it ultimately goes to sticking with your guns and being confident that what you're doing is right for you. If it feels right and it is right, then let it be right. Don't try to find things that make it wrong and find ways to beat yourself up about what you're not doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think that's what you just said about always that second guessing about the result. And I think when we talk about whys, a lot of times, just that result comes into your head almost immediately. Like, why do I want to, get this much faster, do whatever. But why do we throw away the baby with the bath? What was that the saying?
I have no idea about babies and bathwater.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's all about, it really is about just feeling good today. And like you said, if you set up yourself, and even if that's why I'm always, especially with the club where I'm not in there every day talking to people, I'm always like, hey, if this isn't resonating with you today, back it down or do something that, feels more appropriate to your current status and the state of mind you're in and the way your body feels and things like that. And just do that effectively rather than, if you got like a 4,000 meter swim or something and you're just wiped out. Why wouldn't you rather just do a 2,000 easy and just chill and get out, and get some motion, get that going. I'm not advocating all the time because if you really want to work hard and do better, and, I think that comes and goes in phases. I think people get into these modes where they want to just crush a race and they're feeling good and everything's on fire, and that happens. But I've rarely seen that happen season after season after season for people. Everyone has their ups and downs. Mm-hmm. This is year of ollies and halves, no fulls, and then all of a sudden they have one. And that happened to me year after year. And I've always been sort of envious of, people that cross the finish line and just say, man, I had a really great time out there. And, because a lot of times my why becomes, why in the hell am I doing this on the back half of the marathon? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like, just to be able to sort of complete a race and feel like you control it rather than it just beating the hell out of you. That's a pretty good why. You know what I mean? Like, how are you going to pace it? How are you going to, train leading up to it? How are you going to eat and sleep? Feel good that day and just have a good race because, we get so caught up in, 10 minutes of shaving 10 minutes off of an Ironman or whatever. And I think that puts such a subconscious pressure on us that it might stop us from, cutting 15 minutes off it if we just went through that race with a little bit of a different perspective rather than hammer down.
When I think all of us have, different whys and the seasons change between, why we have our why, your base level kind of why I think should be to be able to do this sport for as long as possible, right? To be able to get the benefits you can get from this sport, whether it's community, fitness, health, camaraderie, growth, improvement, setting an example, all those things. You're only going to be able to achieve the highest level of all those if you continue to do the sport, right? If you continue to chase and overcommit to things or do a race just because you feel like you have to this year. Like I got to renew my Ironman card this year. I got to do one. I can't just sweep. I'm not doing one. It's the most successful athletes that I work with are the ones that recognize when things aren't fitting. I'm going to recognize them out of the gate, right? But they'll undulate through, all three sports, just one sport, all three sports, just one sport, two sports, back to one, three sports. But what matters most is they're still in the game, right? They're not on the bench. Yep. I had a guy that I'm working with for 3 years now, very successful, had a great year last year, more PRs. And then this year, just with different life things that are going on, you could tell he was just kind of fighting it. He was kind of fighting the triathlon training. He was fighting, adding it all together and putting all the pieces and making things work. And And, I'd give him some choice things here and there, and then they get mad. He was like, no, I can do this, because we want to do it, right? People are driven, they're type A, and I think to an extent we feel like we're letting ourselves down, or we're not as committed or motivated anymore. We're like, God, what's that say about me if I can't just get to the pool? Or I can't do this. And it's like, well, a lot of times it's not like going back to, like time management too. Because I don't have time for that. It's never that you don't have time. It's that you're choosing to make time for different things. Own that. Own that you're okay making time for something different, and that's okay. And finally, he emailed like 2 weeks ago. He was like, all right, I'm done. He was like, I don't want to do any triathlons this year, really. I just want to do some running stuff. I want to swim and run, or I want to bike and I run only. I don't want to go to the pool. I was like, finally. Dear God, like how it took you long enough to come to this realization. I came to it 6 weeks ago, but thank you. And so I was like, I texted him. I was like, finally, rip the Band-Aid off. He's like, I knew you wouldn't care, but it just, it feels better saying it out loud. Now that we're on the same page, it's like, finally. You know what's happened since then? He hadn't missed a workout.
Really?
And that's so much of training and working with athletes is that you want to, and I think that's ultimately what people are looking for. And what they want is we want to feel successful, right? Like we didn't pick up the sport to fail. We didn't pick up the sport to, be critical of ourselves or to feel like we're not doing good enough or, we're not doing as many hours as so-and-so. Like we got in the sport to be successful, and success can look a whole lot of different ways. It can be, speed. It can be endurance. It can be, doing specific races. It can be just overall health. It can be being committed and accountable for the first time in your life to certain things. Like it can look so many different ways. And that's also where like people's why I think can kind of affect what their current image is of success, and the bar is raised, to what's successful and what, where they need to be performance wise is the last 3 years. It's been, 12, 14 hours a week. I got to do a sub, 5:30 Ironman. I got to keep progressing my half marathon. When you look to all the things they were able. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Able.
Yeah, able.
It's like capable and, and able. It's like they're probably like, yeah, able sounds pretty good. Let's throw a C in front of there and make it sound like a normal person's talking. Is they, what allows them to be capable of doing those things was X, Y, and Z. Well, now X, Y, and Z might be totally different, right? The demands and responsibilities might be different. The time availability might be different. Even the amount of stress, right, that an athlete is able to accrue to do a certain thing in, fitness wise, if now they have higher life stress, you can't give them the same amount of training stress, right? Because stress is stress. And so I think when you have to kind of remeasure what it means for me to be successful this year. Does it mean that I'm going to make a choice again, like stick to your guns and like you made the choice, stick with it and own it. I'm going to do this. All right. Well, I'm only going to commit to, I can only commit to 8 to 12 hours a week this year. That's really all I've got. Then don't expect, even though you still might, depending on how things are done, still be able to keep on improving, but don't expect and think it's like foregone conclusion to have the same level of training 14 to 16, hours a week. Own that and recognize it and just be okay with it. Right. And I think we part of it is the success we just had. That's very, very new, very, very fresh. I can do this. Like I can really I can keep going. I can still PRing, but also kind of goes back to why we first hit the register button for the first race we ever did, right? One day I want to do this. One day I want to do that. And that might not be a reality anymore for some people. And you know what? That's okay, right? It is totally okay for things not to be a reality. Then what matters most is that you got into the sport, right? That you're still doing, you're still participating, you're still, being healthy, you're still doing things the way they should be done. And I just think it's hard for people that are, especially they're type A, to kind of wrap their brain back around, because we all obsess over what we're not doing versus what we are doing. Mm-hmm. Like a newer athlete I started working with a couple of weeks ago, just hung up on where she isn't versus I've fallen so far down in my fitness. She's like, don't, I know you won't be disappointed, but I gotta say it anyway. Please don't be disappointed in me. I'm like, I don't give a shit. In fact, I didn't even know you back then. So, if for all I know, this is the best shape you've ever been in. Yeah. It's like, it's not about where we aren't, it's where we are. And it's not about where we wanted to go. It's where we're going now. And those are just really hard things for athletes and humans, right? To wrap their brain around. You and I have gone through that basically every day, 24 hours a day, or every 24 hours for the last like 2 weeks, when making decisions, doing things, you're like, yeah, I don't know what that feels right. They're like, wait a minute, 30 days ago, that was okay. And now it's not. It's like how things change and like how, and the decisions we make and how we get like, wait a minute, this was perfect for us 45 days ago. And now all of a sudden today, you're like, yeah, I'm not really sure. But you're like, wait a minute, it is like, it's the human mind and expectations and things we kind of get caught up in really do cloud the things that matter most to us. And that can also prevent you from getting to where you want to go.
Yeah. And most triathletes are, older. It's like a second career second sporting career for them. And I think we do have that memory of who we were and things like that. And I think that's a good thing. I think you can sort of be like, well, I used to be able to do this. I can't do it quite as well, but I can still do it. And that sort of drives me. And that's always been like my thing with push-ups or whatever. I always want to get a lot of push-ups and keep doing that. Because if I can keep doing my level of push-ups, that means I feel like in general, I'm keeping somewhat in that ballpark. And, the last year I've had a shoulder issue that's kind of kept me from that. And that's really depressing, man. Cause it was my thing, it was one of my just go-tos during the day. I just drop and do some push-ups or whatever. But, we get older and we want to kind of do that. And like you're saying that things can change in month to month or whatever, but you can also see that day to day. It's like, I can go into Training Peaks on a Friday and say, man, I am on fire, coach. I love it. I feel like I'm really getting somewhere. And then, take a weekend off and drop in on Monday and they're ready to quit the sport. And, this is like, it's very frustrating, but I get it. Things happen in life and we're getting old, we have lives and there's been a lot of stress the last couple of years too. And things change, and I think it's up to us to, just concentrate on what's going to make me feel best today. And that can be, something as simple as going for a walk, because you may not feel like, because I was talking to somebody in Training Peaks this morning about how important it is because I know, how you notice I'm tired, my legs are killing. Oh man, today I got it through, felt all right, but man, I'm starting to get, and that's when we always kind of try to step in and say, all right, tomorrow's the day that you just need to give yourself a break or whatever, and keep an eye on that sort of thing. And I just want to reiterate that all the time because it's so important because like, I would rather, as you were talking about my Olympic focus for a half, if I can feel comfortable with that and really nail that. And then on, like you're saying, on some days, maybe I feel better and I just go a little bit longer, a little bit harder, or take that interval a little longer, or whatever the case may be, and just kind of keep firing on all cylinders with that, slight growth towards the next day. That is so massive to me because man, you're going to have peaks and valleys all the time. You're going to be tired and then you're going to recover and be fresh and get back and blah. But you just don't want those things to be too peaky and valley, and I think that's what you can kind of see. You can go right into Training Peaks and see a peak and valley. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like instantly.
Yep.
And that's why I love when, I'm a big fan of yellow in the Training Peaks. I've always said that because I know that makes effort. That's a lot of times that means that there's an effort been made, or sometimes it means they went a little bit,
flexibility.
Felt a little, yeah. So, but you can kind of see the trends. You know what's kind of going on there. So I would just rather see this sort of somewhat consistent pattern rather than like nothing, 2.5 hour run. Nothing, whatever, that kind of stuff, which is like, I get it because I've been there, I do it and everything. And I understand because it's sort of like, I'm not where I was and I got to get back there. Got to get better, or at least prove it to me. It's sort of my, like if I could do 100 push-ups in an hour or whatever, and I haven't done one in 6 months, then I do it and then I'm just sore as hell. And I'm like, man, I can't do these anymore.
It's always about the approach, right? Don't approach it from the finish. Approach it from where you remember you started last time. Like any time I go back and look at like the 2 periods of training that I did that led up to like the two best seasons I've ever had. And I remember how I started off on that journey when I got back, when I got back on the bike and I ran yesterday morning, my first thought was, all right, you don't worry about anything. You only worry about the approach, right? You only worry about what you remember got you back to where you're in the best shape of your life, which for me, honestly, the best shape we've probably ever been in ever was before the Texas 70.3 that got canceled in November. I was without question in the best shape of my life. And before that, I had been basically doing not much of anything, nothing. But I got back in a very reserved manner. It was kind of easy to be reserved though, I think, because it was 2020 and ain't shit happening. You know? So it's like, hey, I got no rush, I'm all good.
Right.
Which I think is such a blessing in very, I think, also insightful to why I was able to get there. And I signed up for Tech Empathy late. Like I was like, I'm just going to get back into things and see where I get. And after a few months, I was like, yeah, this is working pretty well. I think I'm going to do pretty well. And I remember how easy I took it when I first started. I remember I got back on the bike. I wasn't worried about watts. I was just worried about getting as many aerobic hours as I possibly could before I even started doing anything hard. Because if I did something hard, I'd probably be shelled and wouldn't want to get up the next day. Right. Or I'd be so destroyed mentally that I wasn't, making enough progress, because I set a benchmark before I was even able to like be on the bench, to reach a benchmark. It wasn't my body not responding. It was my head getting way too far out in front, irresponsibly, with expectations and drive and ego, to where I was like, whoa, my body's like, hey, dude, I'm doing good. Like I'm on the right trajectory. You're making progress. Why are you trying to ask me to do this and then judge me because I can't? Right? And so I think it's like me wanting to sit down and play tic-tac-toe with Hayden. He's like, I can play tic-tac-toe. I'm like, all right, boom, let's play some chess. You suck. He had no idea how to play chess, and that's what doesn't mean he's not where he's supposed to be. It just means I, was being a shitty parent. But like we do that with ourselves all the time. And so when I think about getting back, quote unquote, getting back to where I was, I don't think about where I ended. I think about how my approach was, what the process was that I got started with, because that's where it goes. Like if you want to ask somebody how to get somewhere, you don't ask them where to go because you already know where they want to go. Hey, I want to go to, this place in the middle of the country. All right, well, how do you get there? Like, well, you go to this place. Like, wait a minute, but I know where I want to go. How do I get there? You're like, right. Oh, okay. Well, you're going to start in this parking lot over here and do this and do that. And like, that's where you always have to remember to go back and go is like, all right, wait, okay. Just start and be smart with it. Instead of, like you said, the demolishment. I found both personally and as a coach, when most people go way overboard, they're chasing something that they aren't, or they wish they were. And then the other overlapping piece that is they're frustrated that they're not where they were before. And they want to just, is it still in me somewhere? Do I still have something? And then what happens is it doesn't further your progress towards your ultimate goal. It actually sets you back.
Yeah. And let me just tell you, we had this conversation yesterday. It's still in there, right? I said, you got on the bike and you said you got interrupted and didn't go as long as you thought. And I said, well, fitness is fitness. And you go, yep, it's still in there. And to believe that, I think, is a part of the way. It's like I could probably still, hit a baseball fairly well, but I haven't done it in like 25 years. And for me to go out there with a bat and take, like an hour of batting practice right now would absolutely just destroy me, but like if you take increments, or it's like maybe you with tennis, you probably haven't played in a long time, but go out and play for like 5 sets right now would probably just ruin your arm or your elbow or something. And you just, I think you just look for glimpses and trust it. And I think that's interesting what you said about, just kind of aerobic rides and taking it easy and then just sort of letting that come. Because to me, it's that aerobic stuff that is tough to get back because, we prove it over and over. Right now, I'm sure that I could go on the bike and do a relatively hard bike workout, with pretty good power and intensity, but I would be shelled and I'd probably quit riding again. So I guess the point is let that come back to the point when, you talk about build up your chassis or whatever, but it's sort of like, I always feel like that inner athlete that you were, a few years ago is still in there waiting to happen. It's just that you got to get the rest of your body and your brain around letting that happen naturally rather than forcing it. Mm-hmm. And, you know, for me right now, like it may not happen until race day, you know what I mean? But I got to get in a place where I can maybe let it rip a little bit out there and just see what happens. Maybe it won't happen, but I think that's so important to believe that and trust the process, that you're still who you thought you were.
And when you go back to like trusting, you know, who you thought you were, you know, sometimes, you know, we try to chase like what we thought was the best version of ourselves.
That's true too.
And really it might not have been. You know, it's like we get so caught up, and like you said, like we always finish races and we're like, man, like, you know, I wonder if I could have gone faster. You don't know, right? So your best race, your best result might have just been in spite of certain things, not because of things, you know, that you did right. And so I think we're ever evolving, right? Our life is changing, our body is changing, you know, the things that you respond to, you know, are probably changing. And it's just one of those things where you have to be mindful, and you have to pay attention, right, to those things, and to be, and to stay on top of it, and ultimately, like, you know, we can end it here is like, just when in doubt, show yourself grace, you know, to go easier or to do less, or to, you know, be okay with the pace or the power or the time that you did, you know, instead of trying to beat yourself up, because all that's going to do is put you back in a mentality and concrete an attitude that's unhealthy and irresponsible for you. Because, like, remember, our mind controls our body, and for a lot of people, people's bodies are like, if they could talk to be like, dude, what are you doing to me? Why? Like, I'm perfectly fine. Or I could actually be better if you would quit running me into the ground. You know, it's like, remember that, like, you know, with that, and respect that and understand that before you go and do irresponsible, unhealthy things, not just to your body physically, but to solidify these negative thoughts. It usually comes from a negative experience that you honestly, not all the times in life, obviously, but we had a part in creating. You know, and then be able to move on from that and mature from that. But it's just a really hard thing to wrap in. So much of triathlon is psychological, it's mental, it's emotional. The physical piece is usually just the output of what we chose to do or didn't do, or restrained or pushed forward, or how consistent or not consistent we were. Like, that's just the output. But so much of it comes from the chin up.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And you know, like, I like what you said, because sometimes you can be chasing what you were, but you might want to, you know, take a different approach and find somebody different, because if that's what got you to a place where you weren't necessarily the happiest with your performance or your why in the sport or everything like that. And like, for me, sometimes for years, one of my biggest problems was, I would go too hard too much, usually on the bike. I've never been a big fan of just kind of lollygagging around out there in my rides and just kind of taking it easy for recovery. And I think, you know, stuff like that really lends itself towards burnout. Mm-hmm. And, you know, because that's the greatest compliment I can get, is with this plan is going really well. I feel fresh and I'm recovering well. I'm up and down. I'm feeling strong, and then I feel recovered and that kind of stuff. And I think we, you know, take that for granted a lot of times, because when we're going on an upward trend, it's always like, let's just keep going. Let's keep going and keep getting faster and keep getting, but you need to back off, and you need to, like you're saying, show yourself grace and allow your body to become what it, you know, potentially can become by getting it rest or whatever.
Always give it rest.
Yeah.
And we'll give this podcast a rest. Hope you enjoyed today. There was a lot of great comments and some other like really, really good topics we'll discuss on next week's podcast. A lot of awesome stuff. So thanks for taking time to drop in your ideas. We'll definitely get to a few of those as best we can. As always, if you want more info on what we do, go to our website, C26triathlon.com. It's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you need anything from Mike specifically, always reach out to him at crushingiron@gmail.com. If you need anything from me specifically, I'm at C26coach@gmail.com.
Okay. And at the beginning did you say today's date or Thursdays?
I said today's.
Okay.
Today's March 1st, but you guys are going to hear this on March 3rd.
Yeah. because today is Tuesday and the Badgers play Purdue for the Big Ten title tonight. What do you think of that? It's going to be a tough game.
I mean, I'll cheer for the Badgers. Hayden would say go Purdue. He likes Purdue for some reason. He's a logo guy. He is he saw Purdue beat Tennessee in the bowl game.
Oh, that was an exciting ending.
It was a very exciting ending.
He likes their graphic.
Yeah, he likes weird. Like we were watching the Tennessee Auburn game, with Tennessee Vols rolled, and he goes, I like number 12. I was like, number 12 for? He's like, for Auburn. I was like, what? Why? He goes, like his haircut. And I was like, you don't even know. You don't even know what you know, which is obviously why he likes Brady. He doesn't even know what he knows. But we know, and we're out of here. We'll see.
He probably likes Brady's hair too.
He does have good hair.
Jeez, man. All right, well, that'll wrap it up.
See you, dude.
See ya.